Ownership power. Ownership is the foundation. John D. Rockefeller did not become powerful by selling oil. He became powerful by owning Standard Oil, refineries, pipelines, transportation, distribution. Control of the asset meant control of the industry. The Walton family does not manage Walmart stores. They own Walmart. Ownership converts labor into extraction. Every transaction sends value upward. This structure is stable because it does not require activity. It survives leadership changes. It compounds automatically. Ownership creates dynasties. Ownership controls assets. But the next structure doesn't own value. It routes it. Platform power. Platform power is ownership without visibility. Jeff Bezos did not build a retail company. He built a commercial operating system. Amazon controls logistics networks, fulfillment centers, seller access, delivery routes, and cloud infrastructure. Millions of businesses depend on Amazon's platform to exist. That dependency reverses competition. Sellers do not challenge Amazon. They optimize for it. The same structure applies elsewhere. Google controls search visibility. Apple controls mobile software distribution. Microsoft controls enterprise infrastructure. Platforms do not compete for profit. They host activity and tax it. Once activity flows through a platform, power accumulates passively. Platforms control activity. But hold on, because the next structure decides where money is allowed to go. Capital allocation power. Some billionaires don't build products. They decide outcomes. Their real influence comes from where money goes. Take Warren Buffett. His power isn't control. It's capital placement. When Berkshire invests, behavior changes. Executives listen. Boards fall in line. Markets react. Now scale that idea up. BlackRock runs this model at a systemic level. They don't need to own companies directly. By concentrating capital, they influence entire industries. Capital allocation works because capital decides who survives. Capital decides who expands. Capital quietly shapes regulation. Markets respond to money long before they respond to consumers. Capital creates winners, yes. But even the winners can lose if the rules change, and the next structure writes the rules. Political insulation. Power that relies on governments is fragile. Power that protects itself from governments lasts. Some families understood this early. The Koch family didn't just build industrial wealth. They built political insulation around it. Lobbying networks, policy influence, regulatory shaping, think tanks that define the conversation. The goal wasn't popularity, it was predictability, because predictable rules protect capital. You see the same logic globally. Saudi royal wealth follows a similar playbook. Oil money turns into diplomatic leverage. Alignment becomes protection. Political insulation turns wealth into a system that's hard to touch. Political insulation stabilizes power. But even the stability doesn't guarantee obedience, because the next structure controls what people accept. Narrative control. Narrative power decides what you're even allowed to believe. Think about that for a second. Who decides what a story means? Rupert Murdoch's influence isn't really about revenue. It's about framing. What gets highlighted, what gets buried, and what slowly becomes normal. Ever notice how some ideas feel obvious? That's not accidental. Media ownership shapes emphasis, and emphasis shapes reality. Then technology platforms took it further. Algorithms don't debate you. They just decide what you see first. What trends, what disappears, what never even reaches you. And here's the part most people miss. Narrative control doesn't fight resistance. It prevents it. It doesn't argue. It conditions. If perception is managed early enough, opposition dissolves before it even forms. Narratives shape belief, but belief still relies on something deeper, because what happens when the system itself decides what's possible? The next structure controls what systems simply cannot bypass. Technological choke points. Some power structures don't sit in the spotlight. They sit at bottlenecks. Think of a narrow bridge. Whoever controls it controls the traffic. Elon Musk sits near several technological choke points. Electric vehicle infrastructure, launch systems, satellite internet, battery supply chains. Notice something? These aren't just products, they're roads the future must travel. NVIDIA holds a similar gait in AI. Their chips power the engines of modern intelligence. Choke points work because alternatives are slow, expensive, or missing. Unavoidable systems create leverage. Choke points create dependence, but that dependence only lasts if you can protect it. This next structure is the reason that protection never fails. Legal architecture. What actually lets power survive generations? Not just money, legal structure. The Rothschild family built influence through legal architecture, trust structures, holding companies, jurisdictional strategy, intergenerational vehicles. Think of it like a vault for power. Legal architecture can reduce taxation legally, shield liability, maintain continuity. Governments change, legal systems usually remain. Capital moves, structures persist. Legal frameworks preserve power. But power compounds fastest when information moves privately. So who gets that information first? The next structure decides that. Network power. Ever wonder why some opportunities appear only to a few people? Billionaires don't operate alone. They move inside closed networks, boards, private funds, foundations, elite institutions. Think of overlapping circles of access. Information travels quietly. Opportunities appear early. Risk spreads inside the circle. During crises, something interesting happens. Networked actors reposition before markets react. Liquidity appears where outsiders see collapse. Network power stays quiet. Access comes before advantage. Networks distribute advantage. But advantage grows strongest when desire stays unsatisfied. The next structure turns demand into total control. Scarcity control. What happens when something everyone wants becomes hard to get? Scarcity turns desire into compliance. Bernard Arnault doesn't just sell products. He controls access, limited supply, brand mythology, deliberate restriction. It's like a velvet rope outside a club. The fewer people inside, the more everyone wants in. Luxury markets don't compete on price. They compete on exclusion. Scarcity shifts power to the seller. Demand becomes emotional. Price becomes symbolic. Scarcity builds loyalty, but loyalty grows stronger with time. And final structure turns patience into absolute power. Time leverage. What if the most powerful weapon in business was simply time? Time is the final structure. Most competitors need profits now. Billionaires don't. Take Jeff Bezos. Amazon ran at losses for years. Most competitors couldn't survive that pressure. So what happens when one player can wait longer than everyone else? Time leverage enables market exhaustion, competitor attrition, compounding dominance. Patience stops being passive. It becomes a weapon.